Today, we are investigating the biology of human sleep cycles and their direct connection to your mental and physical health. I'm host B. We are mapping exactly what happens inside the body when we sleep. We'll trace the brain's neurobiology, examine the microbiome in your gut, and its effect on endocrine health. To start, we need to ask, how do delayed sleep cycles affect mental and physical health? Exactly. And what are the key elements for this mental and physical connection? The system starts in the hypothalamus, at the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. This master clock runs on a strict 24-hour cycle. It relies on light. Retinal cells, called iPRGCs, detect blue light. Morning sunlight hits them, firing a signal straight back to the SCN. That signal initiates a coordinated hormonal transition. The brain suppresses the production of melatonin to clear away sleepiness, while simultaneously releasing cortisol to increase body temperature and force the nervous system into full alertness. Your sleep timing is a hardwired biochemical command system. It dictates the daily operational schedule for every single organ in your body. This chart compares disease hazard ratios from a Stanford study and UK Biobank data against chronotypes, a genetic preference for being a morning lark or night owl. Late sleep timing spikes severe depression and metabolic disease, regardless of genetic preference. There is pushback to this from this social jet lag theory. It argues that staying up late isn't the true danger. The argument asserts that society's rigid 9-to-5 work structure forces night owls to wake up early, causing chronic exhaustion and physiological damage. But the UK Biobank data directly contradicts that. Researchers found that entirely new physical health disorders appear consistently across the board for late sleepers. The physiological damage occurs independently of their daytime social schedules, which brings us to ask whether delayed or shortened circadian sleep cycles can cause harm to critical thinking and mental health. Sleep researchers refer to the period after midnight as the biological night. When you force the brain to remain awake during this window, its mechanical function physically changes. The frontal cortex, the area responsible for rational decision-making, powers down. Meanwhile, the amygdala, processing fear and emotion, becomes hyperactivated alongside reward centers. Without the frontal lobe to apply the brakes, the brain defaults to threat detection and immediate gratification, driving anxious thought loops, high impulsivity, and poor emotional regulation. Staying awake past midnight actively degrades your rational guardrails. It leaves you neurologically vulnerable to psychological distress, simply because the hardware meant to protect you is offline. You're listening to OOT-TV with research by author Paul Bulow. The brain holds the master clock, but every organ in your body operates on its own peripheral clock, and metabolic timing is highly sensitive to disruption. This graph plots human insulin sensitivity over 24 hours. Peaking at 8 a.m., it drops to a minimum after 10 p.m. Eating late forces glucose processing during this low, leaving sugar in the bloodstream and risking type 2 diabetes. Sleep delay also sabotages the appetite hormones. Staying awake late causes a sharp spike in ghrelin, the hormone signaling hunger, while suppressing leptin, the hormone that tells the brain you are full. This hormonal failure creates intense, nearly uncontrollable cravings for high-fat, high-calorie foods late at night. When you combine low insulin sensitivity with high caloric intake, the body stores the excess energy as fat. Obesity and metabolic diseases in late sleepers are the direct mechanical result of forcing digestion to occur during the biological night. There is another independent biological clock to consider: the gut microbiome. This dense ecosystem of bacteria operates on its own diurnal rhythm. The gut functions as the body's primary chemical manufacturing plant. 95% of the body's serotonin is produced right here in the digestive tract. The gut also produces roughly 400 times more melatonin than the brain. When irregular sleep timing misaligns the brain's master clock with the gut's microbial rhythm, it creates a hostile biological environment, actively killing microbial diversity. The resulting microbial dysbiosis compromises the intestinal barrier and triggers systemic inflammation that spreads throughout the entire body. Serotonin and melatonin produced in the gut don't stay there. They communicate with the central nervous system via the vagus nerve, sending chemical data straight from the digestive tract to the brainstem. When microbial dysbiosis degrades this communication highway, the brain loses the exact chemical signals required to transition into deep sleep. The result is fragmented sleep architecture and severe psychological distress upon waking. Chronic late sleep starves the nervous system of the hormones it needs for mental stability and physical recovery. The consequences of this biological desynchronization carry specific impacts based on gender. The circadian rhythm strictly dictates the female endocrine system. Delayed sleep timing disrupts the hypothalamic pituitary-ovarian axis, or HPO axis, which governs reproductive health in women. This disruption leads to the erratic release of luteinizing hormone. The cascading effect includes severe menstrual irregularity, difficulties with ovulation, and highly exacerbated PMS symptoms. The timing of specific sleep stages also plays a critical role. Stage N3, known as deep sleep, occurs primarily in the first half of the night. This is the precise window when the body releases vital growth hormones. When women shift their bedtimes late and skip early night N3 sleep cycles, bone maintenance halts, directly increasing the risk of osteoporosis later in life. For women, irregular sleep timing acts as a systemic endocrine disruptor, destabilizing immediate reproductive health while simultaneously eroding long-term skeletal integrity. You're listening to OTO TV, with research by author Paul Bulow. Realigning your biological clock requires specific behavioral interventions. Start with the 10-3-2-1 rule. Cut caffeine 10 hours before bed, stop eating heavy meals 3 hours before, finish work 2 hours prior, and drop all screens 1 hour before sleep. Combine this with 15 minutes of morning sunlight upon waking to manage your dim light melatonin onset, or DLMO. As the research dictates, understanding and identifying healthy and consistent circadian sleep cycles is critical to our healthy recovery and mental health stability. Furthermore, inconsistent circadian sleep cycles disrupts our healthy environment for cellular growth, mental, and physical success. Routine sleep theory suggests our body's health is connected to our thoughts, energy, and clarity of alignment of actions, words, and dreams. Chronic misalignment does more than cause fatigue. When the frontal cortex is persistently sidelined and gut-derived neurochemicals are depleted, the brain loses its ability to filter stress and maintain reality testing. Consequently, delayed circadian sleep cycles can be linked to anxiety, gut dysbiosis, mental illness, psychotic delusion, paranoia, and antisocial personality disorder. Your sleep timing isn't a passive habit. It is a foundational regulatory tool that synchronizes your metabolic, immune, and neurological systems. True physiological actualization begins the exact moment you choose to align your biology with the natural rhythms of the sun.